When we were away at Sandringham, we noticed that the carpet down here was getting a little bit wet, and it looks like the water pump is leaking slightly. So let's have a look at that and see if we can work out what's happening. I think before we got the van it had suffered some frost damage. This strainer here on the pump supply from the water tank, the body on it had frozen and I've replaced that. The pump here is what I think is leaking. We're getting some water building up around here, just a little bit. I did try tightening these unions, but didn't seem to solve the problem, so I'm wondering if there's been a little bit of water left in the pump that's frozen and cracked something. But I think we're going to have to pull it out to have a look and see. Before I pull anything out, I always like to take a little photo of how it's connected up so I can remember later. Yeah, these coming undone easy enough. Yeah, notice I'm unscrewing everything by hand. Don't really like using electric screwdrivers on stuff like this because it just takes out the heads of the screws and it's just a little bit too rough, I think. Rather do things by hand. Oh, I dropped my screwdriver. Right, should just be able to lift it out now and have a look. The water coming out of there. I can't see anything obviously split. Yeah. Well, there's the pump out now. I can't see anything obvious on there. I would have thought I'd see some sign if anything was leaking. I might just remake these joints. It could be that the washers on the connections there were leaking, or it could be where the hoses go into the connections that were leaking. I might redo all that, put the pump back in, and then add some water and see if it'll leak again. See if it was just the connections that were causing the problem. So I'm thinking it definitely could be that these aren't sealing up properly because the washers in the unions are a little bit tired. So I'm going to just put some thread seal tape around them. It's not really the right thing to do, but it might work. And then I'm going to run the pump with it not fixed down so I can lift it up and see if I can work out where it's leaking from. Ultimately I could just buy a new pump, but I don't particularly want to if I can get this one working right. I'm going to lap this over a little bit so it runs over the front of that when I tighten it up, just to try and make that seal a bit better. You can see there's water still dripping out of this, which although the van's been pretty thoroughly drained down, there's obviously a bit of water that stays in the pump, so I guess it's not impossible that something's slightly cracked that I can't see. Anyway, let's give this a shot, see what happens. Righto, now I'm going to make sure it's nice and thoroughly dry around everything so I can try and see where the water's coming out, if it does. Right, now I'm going to have to put a little bit of water in the tank so I can try it out. Well, everything's still pretty frozen, so it's back to using the watering can. Righto, well, I've put 3 5-litre watering cans full into the tank, so I'll power up the pump, we'll open up the tap and see if this stays dry now, I guess. Okay, well that was a no-go. The pump now doesn't work at all. So I wonder if we've blown a fuse. Let's have a look. No, that fuse is all good. I'm assuming that's the one for the pump since it's in that order, but let's just check the others. That's good. And that's good. So we're definitely not blowing a fuse. It's something else. Oh dear. Well, I guess the next thing to check is that we're actually getting 12 volt to the pump. So I've turned the pump switch back on again. You can you see? There. More hands. Yeah, there you go. We have 12 volt to the pump. So not sure what's going on there. Let's connect it up and try again. Okay, switch her on now. Nothing. Ah dear. Just try on the vehicle battery. Right, well, I put some more water in the tank because I wasn't sure if there's a level switch in there that stops the pump working when the level's low, but it's got 20 litres in now, so certainly should fire up the pump when I turn it on, but it's clearly not. So I think what we need now is to have some tea and some lunch and try and work out what to do next. Okay, well, I've come back out to the van and weirdly the pump is now working again, although it's not sounding fantastically great. I've bled most of the air out of the system. We've got Yeah. Yeah, so that's not good, is it? I do wonder if there's a pipe frozen underneath the van somewhere that's not letting it through. But, not sure. In the bathroom here, we've got so that's running reasonably well. I think that might be a pipe frozen a little bit with some water still in it under the van leading to the kitchen tap. Now just looking around the pump here, see a little bit of water there. I think I dried it all up pretty good before I left it last, but I'm going to dry that up again and then run the pump again to see if that reappears. Yeah, so now that's bone dry there, so let's run some more water through and see if that gets wet again or if that's just something that I missed last time. Well, I've actually got a good flow coming out the kitchen tap as well now, so I think I'm right. I think that was frozen pipe underneath the van. But what I've got now, I'll try and show you, is some water. Looks like it's coming out of the underside of the pump. So I'm going to take that pump out again, undo those screws, take that pump out again, and see if I can see water pooling underneath it, because I think that's what's happening. The van's sloping towards the front slightly, so any water coming out is going to be heading underneath that tank. Yeah, so I've undone the screws so I can lift the pump up, and I don't know if you can see, there's definitely water. That's a little drip there, but underneath there, it's hard to show you, but that's there's definitely damp under there that's coming out of this pump somewhere. So I'm going to say that we need a new pump. I think my first inkling was right. Yeah, and these unions we suspected at one stage, they're bone dry, so it's certainly not those leaking. Yeah, so I think my first suspicion was correct, and this pump has suffered some frost damage at some point before we got the van. So I'm going to go ahead and drain the water back out of the cold water tank here and the hot water system, because it's still pretty cold. I've got a little electric heater running in the van at the moment because it's parked in front of the house, but I'm going to have to move it back in front of the garage tomorrow, so we don't want any more frost damage to happen, but I think unfortunately it's a new pump. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, press like, subscribe if you want to see some more, and ring the bell to be notified when we upload something new.